Gelatin is a chemically broken down version of the animal protein collagen. And it's called gelatin because it creates a gel with water when cold. You're familiar with the Jell-O dessert. Gelatin also gels in hot liquid as long as you reduce it down a lot. That's what a classic demi-glace or meat glaze type sauce is. You simmer roasted animal parts, the collagen breaks down to gelatin, then you simmer out most of the water until you have a gel so concentrated that it'll be thick even when it's hot. Lots of great classic French sauces get their silky mouthfeel from the gelatin that's in a highly reduced stock. We absolutely can replicate the effect at home by just using cheap, unflavored gelatin. Be aware this brand is made from who knows what animals. There is halal gelatin out there, kosher gelatin, and vegans, we're going to talk about agar.
Call me Agar.
One of these packets of unflavored gelatin is 2.5 teaspoons, 7 grams of powder, I think equivalent to 2 or 3 gelatin sheets if you live in a sheet gelatin place. Gelatin is a weak thickener, but one of these is enough to thicken a large portion of sauce all on its own, you'll see. To standardize these tests I'm going to show you, I'll measure 1 teaspoon of oil, 1 tablespoon shallots. Imagine we just fried off some meat in this pan and we've got some good brown stuff at the bottom. Get those shallots good and brown, and then all these tests I'll do with exactly 1 cup of stock, 237 mils. If you're going to make a reduced sauce out of store-bought stock, make sure that you get the low-sodium kind, or it'll be way too salty. Deglaze with the stock, and then I'll reduce it down a lot. The flavor is now pretty intense, but it obviously needs some thickening help. Here's what you do not do with gelatin. You cannot just dump the powder or the sheets into a small amount of hot liquid. It will clump badly. There's just not enough water available to get between all those tangling peptides and other protein bits in the gelatin. You can save this. You can add more liquid and then stir and simmer, stir and simmer. You can slowly melt those gelatin clumps apart. But lots of boiling also chemically breaks down the gelatin further and you lose some gelling power, so we want to avoid this. I'm going to show you 2 better ways of adding gelatin to a pan sauce. Gelatin that is derived from collagen, which is what your face loses as you get older, and that's what makes you look older. Delay the inevitable with Geology, sponsor of this video.
Jeez.
Honestly, my skincare routine is more about health to me. I don't mind looking like a seasoned man. I use Geology Wash to minimize the painful body acne that I get sometimes, and Lauren is always on me to protect myself more from the sun. This is the morning routine that Geology customized for my face. The bottle tells me what thing is step 1, what thing is step 2, how to do it, etc. Lauren was appalled by my technique in the last Geology ad. She wanted to supervise this time. Just dab the eye cream and then 2 full fingers of the stuff with the sunscreen in it. Geology uses simple, proven ingredients trusted by dermatologists for decades. Take Geology's 60-second quiz to get your personalized routine. Right now, take 70% off your personalized trial set and get up to an additional 50% off add-ons. Just use my link and code in the description, AdamRagusia70. Thank you, Geology. Anyway, here are 2 good ways to add gelatin to a pan sauce. Same base as before with the oil and the shallots. Yes, this would be a lot nicer with some brown meat drippings in the pan. Fry off the shallots, in goes the cup of stock, and here now you could sprinkle on the gelatin and stir it in. There's plenty of water, it's not that hot yet, it's easy to work in the gelatin without it clumping up too bad. The only problem is now we have to reduce the sauce down, and boiling gelatin diminishes its thickening power, but not that fast. Here, let's gently boil this until saucy. Gotta scrape the pan as it thickens. Gelatin will tend to build up on the sides. I will call it saucy when I get good trailing in the pan, like that. It'll thicken more as it cools to eating temperature. And let's measure the volume of thickened sauce that we got and compare that amount to the other way that I'm going to show you. You could pre-dissolve your packet of gelatin in the minimum amount of room temperature stock or water water necessary, which is going to be about a quarter cup of liquid. Just stir that in and let it sit for a minute. That's called blooming the gelatin. Same oil and shallot situation, deglaze with 3/4 of a cup of stock to account for the quarter cup that's in with the gelatin. Reduce this down as much as you want without worrying that you're going to be damaging the gelatin. The gelatin is over here, and it's already gelled the remaining stock at room temperature. Bloomed gelatin will easily dissolve into a small amount of hot liquid. This is probably the better way to do it if you can remember to bloom the gelatin. I've got the same trailing going on. My sauce yield from the same ingredients is about the same, which means that neither method is chemically breaking down the gelatin more than the other is to any noticeable degree. Should we worry about acid? Acid from vinegar or some such would contribute to the hydrolysis of the gelatin that we're trying to avoid by not boiling it too much. But I boiled down this batch of sauce with all the same quantities plus a tablespoon of vinegar right at the beginning, and I got the same sauce yield, same sauce thickness at the end. So in this practical context at least, I just don't think we have to worry much about gelatin breakdown and losing gelling power. Anyway, let's make some actual food with this. I'll fry off a chicken breast. Now we have the makings of a decent pan sauce. Fry off those shallots, deglaze with stock, reduce down until almost dry if you want. 1 packet of gelatin bloomed in a quarter cup of cold stock and it dissolves right in. Just simmer to boil out some of that last quarter cup of stock. And yeah, we could have reduced that a little more, but still, the main virtue of gelatin is not as a thickener per se, but as like a smoothener. It makes things taste silky. That's really good and quite low calorie, I might add. But I generally use powdered gelatin with other thickeners. Same base of chicken fond and shallots. You could at this point put in a pinch of flour or cornstarch. This is cornstarch. A tiny dab of tomato paste will really enhance the flavor and color, especially if you brown it a little bit. Make a paste with that bit of starch to work any lumps out and to let it toast a little. Deglaze with stock, reduce, and what we have there is perfectly good starch-thickened gravy. But melting in our bloomed gelatin now will simulate the texture of a spoonful of good demi-glace in the back of a French restaurant. And honestly, a dab of soy sauce gets you some of the extra umami that you get from slowly simmering meat bones and breaking glutamates out of proteins. A little extra seasoning maybe, reduce until you get some nice trailing there, and you can see that we have more sauce volume now because we just have more thickening power total. And we could call this done, or we could kill the heat, wait for the bubbling to really slow down, and then it's safe to melt in some butter. If you melt in butter without boiling it, its natural emulsion will thicken your sauce a bit more and or just give it an extra rich, yummy flavor. We could have used just the starch or just the butter. I wanted to show you both things. Give that a taste. For poultry, I think we could freshen that up a lot with a squeeze of lemon juice, and I gotta say, that tastes an awful lot like a sauce from a nice French bistro because chemically it's probably not that different from a sauce based on stock that you reduced for 18 hours. Oh, I meant to tell you, you can replace gelatin in a sauce with agar.
Call me Agar?
This is a gelling agent derived from red algae. It's vegan, even though this sauce is not. I'm just trying to prove the point. Agar is more powerful, so you need less of it, like less than half of the same volume of gelatin. And you can add it up front like this. The powder does tend to clump up in hot liquid, but the clumps melt pretty easily. Man, I only used a teaspoon, and this already looks way thicker than the others. More stock to fix that. Yeah, I think 1 packet of gelatin equals 3/4 of a teaspoon of agar at most. And you can pre-disperse agar in cool liquid to avoid the clumps. Don't expect it to gel at room temperature, though. It has to boil to thicken. We can reduce our other stock way down first, and then easily stir in that light slurry of agar. Reduce that last bit out, and then there you go. I will say the texture of an agar-thickened sauce is, to me, a little bit less silky and a little bit more slimy. It's a little like mucus, but that's probably just because I'm not used to it, and plant-based foods are good. Actually, it's debated whether red algae counts as a plant, but that's enough for now.